Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Very popular news stories today. And not to sound skeptical, but I do actually wonder exactly what's going to happen after this one. MicroStrategy is back in the news as they have announced their intention to offer $500 million in convertible senior notes, and they will be due in the year 2032. MicroStrategy is a company, obviously, that became quite popular within the cryptocurrency space around 2018, 2019, announcing that they were into Bitcoin. They began to announce that they were going to buy some Bitcoin, and they were actually basically selling a form of debt against their company that would be due back to pay later, I think in 2026 or 2027. And everyone was like, cool. And then the debt that they issued against themselves, they actually used that money to buy Bitcoin. So you see, back in the olden days, whenever any company announced that they were going to be buying the rarest and most scarce asset on the planet, the price would go up. Because, you know, when you hear that a company is putting $200 million in one go into an asset, it causes the price to rise. That's how logic actually works. So MicroStrategy has done this a number of times. They've, surprised and shocked the market by announcing they were going to raise $300 million. They raised $500 million. We're going to raise $500 million. They raised $800 million, and they would buy Bitcoin, and we'd have a good movement up in price over the course of a good, I would say 3 to 5 days, just off of the hype of this one company buying Bitcoin. So when you heard me say before, I'm not sure realistically, hear me out here, what this is going to do to the market. Because we've been hearing for like the better half, 80% of a 3-month period, that around $200 to $500 to $700 million per day of Bitcoin has been purchased. Once again, 70-80%. So it hasn't been every day, but it's been just about every day or every other day of massive amounts of Bitcoin buys. So this is what I was talking. This is just to lightly ramble. This is what I was talking about before in one of the other videos when I was talking about the charts and the farts and the barts and the, this and the cup and the handles and all these other things that people keep talking about. And I tried to remind people as best as I can that we used to live in a world before we had Bitcoin ETFs. So for the way that it used to work before and the long ago, like, January 10th and before, was that any time any company purchased Bitcoin, the price would move up because it was like a crazy thing to hear that another company had gotten into the space. And I mean, like, these purchases would happen every 3 to 4 months. They weren't daily. So the fact that we now get daily $100, $300, $500 million inflows, which is essentially, MicroStrategy is trying to raise $500 million. I'm very interested to see what happens when they purchase this. What ends up happening? Do we move up in price? Will the market actually react? Because, we keep seeing this already every day. So, the private offering to qualified institutional buyers would adhere to Rule 144A. There we go. Of the Securities Act of 1933. Yep, for those of you who also didn't know, you know how like everyone keeps calling things like unregistered securities, and the SEC is like adamant about all these things with crypto. They're using a law from the 1930s and is subject to market conditions and other factors. They said the notes will be unsecured senior obligations of MicroStrategy and will bear interest payable semi-annual in arrears on the 15th of June and 15th of January of each year, December, beginning in December 15th, 2024. The notes will mature on the 15th of June, 2032. Geez Louise. Unless earlier repurchased, redeemed, or converted in accordance with their terms, end quote. And here's a little tweet for it right here. So the news that we have gotten is that MicroStrategy is going to try to raise $500 million. And the money that they raise from that, the bulk of, or a large majority of that money is going to be used to buy Bitcoin, which has, of course, everyone's quite happy. I'm just interested in seeing what happens because I think we are in a very slippery, slopey, icy kind of slope right now, where the news is constantly just focusing on Bitcoin ETF accumulation. And this is even once again before we only had 450 Bitcoin coming out of the machine per day. MicroStrategy has been doing this since there was like 1,800 Bitcoin coming out of the machine per day. And prices still rose, quite normally. So the fact that the supply has crunched even further and the amount of buying still continues, there's still an egregious amount of whale news every day, like whales buying a huge amount of Bitcoin, taking Bitcoin off of exchanges. For those of you who missed it, this was about 4 or 5 days ago, somewhere around there. We got news from Sentiment that they say that there's only around 900,000 Bitcoin still left on exchanges. The amount of Bitcoin being taken off like daily and weekly is something we've never seen before. And we are currently at Bitcoin's lowest supply on crypto exchanges since the last bull run. So, yeah, quite popular news, as anyone might have imagined. Michael Saylor is quite popular on Twitter. He's always saying some stuff. And, we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see if this does anything to price. Apparently, people are still talking and throwing out words that we're going to be over 80,000 soon, and 85,000 is the level that we have to do this, and then this is going to happen before this kinds of things. So at some point, logic has to re-enter the market. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be. But for those of you who don't know, I'm still buying and stuff all the time. I'm buying a lot of stuff just because, at some point, there has to be like a Satoshi that like breaks the camel's back. Like it, just has to work out that way. That's the MicroStrategy is trying to raise at least $500 million to push into Bitcoin. And yeah, let's move on. In shocking, stunning, and brave news, in a significant announcement, because people lost their minds when this news came out. Apparently, there was something called the XRP Ledger Community Summit held in Amsterdam. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, announced that Ripple had been talking about a stablecoin for a couple of weeks, and he finally announced the name of the new stablecoin. It is RLUSD. It can be seen as Ripple US dollar and or real US dollar. Garlinghouse expressed his fondness of the name, stating, "I like to call it real USD, Ripple USD. This development marks a major milestone in Ripple's journey as stablecoins, like the Circle coin and Tether and more, are gaining traction in the digital currency world due to their stability. This development from Ripple is a testament to the growing success and it sounds cool, amazing." So Ripple, a couple of months ago, maybe 2 months ago, announced that they were going to be launching a stablecoin, which is something that I said that they should have done since around 2018, but a lot of people were vehemently against the idea, mainly because of Bitcoin maxi propaganda back in the olden days. Bitcoin maximalists, used to call XRP its own stablecoin. Get it? Because the price was barely moving. So that kind of, I think, spooked a lot of people who liked Ripple or liked XRP into like never wanting an actual stablecoin. They said, well, XRP can do the exact same thing. But then you have to use a little bit of logic, because you know how there are stable coins on top of like Ethereum and people still use Ether. So people are still going to be using XRP as a way to transfer money. Like, we know this because we've seen it already and other companies are already doing so. But a stable coin gets far more adoption from the side of institutions and banks. We heard last year, for those of you who missed those like 18 videos, Ripple has partnered with a number of central banks and banks around the world who want to and are already using the XRP blockchain to transfer value. The risk of slippage, or the change in the amount of whatever the value might be of XRP at that time, is quite low because of the speed of the XRP ledger. It's near instantaneous as far as the news that we've gotten, and we've seen from these other banks who are like, yeah, we were testing it. It's super fast. It's instantaneous. But you have a lot more security when actually using a stable coin. That's just the way that logic works. You have a easier time of sending Tether and knowing that the other person will get that exact same amount than if you were sending Bitcoin. You can be cool and send Bitcoin if you want, but if someone sneezes too hard and Bitcoin goes down by 4.5%, well, that's just, the risk that you've taken. The way that the XRP blockchain works as well is that as stuff is moving, any asset is moving on top of it, and XRP is used as a transaction fee. XRP gets burnt in the background, so there's always less and less XRP. So I think a lot of people have kind of come to terms with the fact that this is now going to be a thing, and also realizing that like people will still use XRP and probably even more so be using the actual stablecoin. There's a lot of money to be made in stablecoins. We've gone over this a couple of times as well. They do trillions of dollars worth of transactions over the course of any given month. So if you as a company called Ripple are partnered with dozens of central banks and banks around the world who are willing to use your products, willing to use your money, willing to use your so-and-so, and you say, hey, I'm going to make a stable coin, of course they're going to jump for joy for this as well. You don't create a stable coin because you like the sound of the word stable coin. There's some kind of interest that we don't know about for these things. It takes a lot of money to create these products and to actually release them into the public. The really big question is going to be how much public usage there actually is of this, just being completely honest. From the standpoint of other companies have been trying desperately to launch their own stable coins within the crypto space for like 6 years now. The only two that have really stood the test of time have been Tether and the Circle coin. We've seen Binance's stablecoin begin to falter, but that was also because of a lot of nonsense and corrupt movements behind the scenes. We've had other stablecoins that have been pegged to gold and pegged to silver, which also didn't make it. We had a lot of them over the years. And also, anyway, so where we currently are now is we're probably going to see this coin being used very similar to the Circle coin initially. Just used by the larger companies and corporations and institutions and banks who are working with Ripple. But the real test of time is going to be the next 2 to 5 years, especially during a bull run, how much volume this actually ends up getting and how much more usage from other companies also end up using it as well. So I personally don't have a problem with the name. There were people 2 weeks. I mean, go outside and get some air. It's really, people are... Oh gosh, people, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, there were rumors of what the stable coin was going to be called. I think it was supposed to be XUSD or USDX or USDR. I forgot what these things were, but everyone was like getting mad at Ripple because they didn't like the way that the letters were formed. And it's like, you're not Ripple, right? You're not the company. You don't work there. Just because you own XRP, you don't have a say in what this centralized company does. That's how companies work. It's like, you may have your money on Coinbase, but you can't control what they do because they're a company. You can say what you want, or vote on things happening on Ether, but you don't control the Ethereum Foundation. So cool. Very popular news. Ripple is ripping and roaring back into the space. The other news that I found out that nearly every other website did not cover is that this stablecoin is not only going to be on the XRP blockchain, but it's also going to be on Ethereum. I feel like that news kind of significantly pushes the coin a lot higher in the rankings, because I looked around and everyone talking about this was only talking about this being on the XRP blockchain, only, exclusively. It's only going to be there. But then I was like, if it's also on top of Ethereum, that opens up the door to a lot of crypto exchanges also listing it. That's how you get the actual movements. So if this thing is on Ethereum and more people are inclined to use it because it's on another blockchain, which also allows the coin, and I air quote here, to be lightly more decentralized. If we end up hearing that they put this stable coin on 5 other blockchains similar to Tether as well, and we get in a huge increase in usage, if this thing ends up going on all the major cryptocurrency exchanges, that's a reason to celebrate. Because if this stable coin ends up doing hundreds of millions and billions of dollars within the first couple of months of movement, that's a lot of XRP that's also going to be burned. It'll hyper accelerate the amount of XRP that's being destroyed in the background, which would then logically, logic, there's that word again, would also cause XRP's price to also rise, which would cause more people to get into XRP, which would cause more XRP to be burned. This is the beginning of the gigantic loop that everyone was fighting against for so long. Everyone was so adamant that they didn't want the stablecoin on XRP because, blah, 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 blah. No, this is what you need to get to a $5, $15, $25 XRP. It's this stablecoin. It's this stablecoin lasting, being around, being on other blockchains, and succeeding. If this succeeds, Ripple has succeeded. If Ripple does extremely well and they go public, XRP skyrockets. I don't know what this keep things in 2017 kind of mindset is, but the market's moving along. Anyway, yeah. So it's called RLUSD, Real USD. I would just say Ripple USD. Why not? I'll even say Ripple coin. This is essentially Ripple coin. Anyway, that's the stable coin news. And yeah. Let's move on. Oh gosh, I have to sneeze and it won't come out. Oh, that's so annoying. Oh, I hate that feeling so much. Oh gosh, it's awful. Also in the news, and I don't fault people, but if we could all just take a step back and stop this. So remember when we got the news that Bitcoin ETFs were going to come out? And the next day, people were talking about Ethereum ETFs. And I was like, hey, can we just bask in the moment that we finally have? Oh, no. Okay, no basking. Okay. And then after we got news that the Ethereum ETFs were going to be a thing, people were talking about the XRP ETF, which there's still no word on it. But Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, was like, yeah, he said it. He said, we're probably going to get XRP ETFs in 2025. Not crossing my fingers, not holding my breath. Now, apparently, other coins are essentially begging for ETFs. And so apparently people within the Shiba Inu community have started an ETF petition. And I assume by now maybe they have it. They're looking for over 10,000 signatures, and they're trying to convince a number of companies to actually file for Shiba Inu ETFs. I don't know why this is happening or what people think is going to. So I do at some point, I personally assume at some point in the future, there's going to be, what do you call it? Like ETFs for all the major coins. I think the idea of an ETF for a meme coin is like 35 steps too far in the wrong direction. Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, you name it, these coins haven't really proven themselves in the real world. They're not doing like $35 billion in transactions daily on or off chain. And I mean, on chain is kind of like, when I say off chain, I mean like a crypto exchange. You know, you may see a lot of money moving through a crypto exchange because the daily volume is showing you that. That's not showing you the actual usage of that coin in the real world. So I think if we ever did get to a point where there were hundreds of millions of people around the world who were using Shiba Inu as a form of payment or to issue new coins or whatever the other things are out there, I think the likelihood of an ETF would jump up. I personally think like people need to cool it and stop it, because this is purely from a we want you to pump our price kind of standpoint. I would assume in all logic, the next coins to probably get ETFs, and I mean, it's only two that are really sticking out. It's either XRP or Litecoin. Litecoin, I'm not going to go over it, is because of all the news that we've been getting, and also the talk from the creator of Litecoin, but also Ripple. The company is going public soon. There's probably stuff working along in the background. I mean, as far as like a tiered system, after all that, maybe comes Cardano, maybe, and that's a very like loose maybe. So yeah, a bunch of coins have been doing this, and I mean, it's nice to show camaraderie and that your online friends are willing to sign a petition, but I don't think we're getting to a Shiba Inu spot ETF on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ anytime soon. So yeah, this is also floating around. I assume a number of other coins will be doing the same. And I mean, especially when we get to like the market pumping, I think a lot of other people will see the crypto exchange volume and think that that's enough to get them an ETF. That's I mean, this is one of the first times that we've had Shiba Inu news, and it didn't involve coin burn. So I guess that's a bit of a win. That's the Shiba Inu news. Okay. Let's move on. Also in popular news, a company by the name of DeFi Technologies. That is the name of the company, DeFi Technologies. A publicly traded company that focuses on Web3 tech. I would have never guessed that. What? That's insane. Has apparently taken a page out of MicroStrategy's playbook, and they're trying to add Bitcoin to their treasury. Yeah. DeFi Technologies has purchased 110 Bitcoin, around $7.7 million, after deciding to make Bitcoin its primary reserve asset. This is a quick little lesson. Right here on the screen, for those of you who are and are not looking, it says 110 Bitcoins with an S. Bitcoin is the singular and the plural. I keep seeing people do this, and I just want to make sure that you understand what's going on. That man has 1 Bitcoin. That man has 15 Bitcoin. I am on the Bitcoin network. Bitcoin is the singular and the plural. Bitcoin never has an S behind it, unless you are talking about Bitcoin's network. Then there is an apostrophe because it is possessive. Just thought I'd throw that out there. The company, whose shares are trading on Toronto's CBOE Canada, explained that it had acquired Bitcoin in order to protect the company's assets from currency debasement. Rousy Newton, R-O-U-S-S-Y, Rousy Newton, CEO of DeFi Technologies, is convinced that the company could potentially expand its treasury because of the latest investment. Yet another company has purchased some Bitcoin. This is normal, like, Bitcoin news. This is the kind of stuff we used to get years ago. We always had news that there was a company who purchased 80 Bitcoin, 110 Bitcoin. It was quite normal. We'd actually see movements up in price over the course of that day. I know that, of course, the market has changed dramatically since the olden days. But yeah, really cool news. A lot of companies continue to do this. It's almost daily at this point, but you have to like dig to find this kind of news anymore. Because it doesn't make popular headlines. There are companies all the time. There was one recently. I think they purchased like 450, and I found one or two websites that were talking about it because it had, there was no weight similar to buying $110 million. If you hear that someone bought $7 million worth of Bitcoin is ginormous. That's 110 millionaires and billionaires who will never be ever able to own an entire Bitcoin. It's off the table completely for them forever. But it doesn't make popular news simply because it's not a gigantic, enormous ETF-sized amount of money, but it's still quite significant. Yeah. Saw this floating around. Pretty cool, I guess. That's the DeFi Technologies. Okay. News. And yeah. Let's move on. Also I don't know what this news is supposed to be. I'm not really, okay. Stablecoin issuer Tether now controls 25% of shares for the Bitcoin mining company BitDeer, according to a recent U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing. Why is there a gap? Why is this gap so big? There we go. That makes the company behind Tether the second largest shareholder of the BTC mining shares, behind Victory Courage, which is registered to BitDeer CEO Yihan Wu. Before being appointed in 2024, yada, 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 who cares? At the time of writing, their shares went up by 2%. The mining company, 26%. Amazing. In a Thursday morning SEC filing, Tether Holdings Limited disclosed that they now hold, that's a lot, 23.5 million shares of this company. The huge uptick in BitDeer's holdings is a result of a private placement deal it closed with the mining company last week. Because of the deal, BitDeer was able to raise $100 million in financing. The deal also issues a warrant that allows Tether to purchase up to an additional 5 million shares at $10 per share over the course of the next year. Yeah, most people are quite surprised to find out that Tether just doesn't do Tether. Tether has been, like many other companies out there, been buying an egregious amount of Bitcoin. When I say that the news is more than just the ETF news, this is also a part of it. Tether, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, you name it. They all have like holdings in these mining companies. They own portions of the Bitcoin that gets mined all the time. For some reason, and I don't know what the whatever is, people forget that these companies are actively always buying up tons of Bitcoin. When you talk about, how like I was saying before, there's 450 Bitcoin mined per day. Those 450 Bitcoin are not hitting the market. They're mining it for themselves. And some of the coins end up hitting, or are sold, but they end up being bought by other companies who also want the Bitcoin, or they're being bought up by banks because we know that banks are also buying up the Bitcoin directly from people who are mining it. So yeah, Tether, for those of you who also missed it, because I'm sure some people did, Tether's making so much money from Tether that they're using billions of dollars, I think every 2 or 3 months, to buy up Bitcoin. So I think 15% of whatever money Tether is making, and it usually comes out to like 15 to 20 billion dollars, they use that money to buy Bitcoin as well that they're also holding. So you know how like we keep getting news like everything is just about the ETFs, and I'm like, no, there's also huge amount of buying behind the scenes. So what you do is you make sure you buy up all these companies, you hold a huge portion of them, and you basically absorb as much like equity and power in all this system as you can, and you make sure that you're also getting as much Bitcoin as you could possibly want, because there's not a lot left, and there will always be less that's being created by the machine. I think a lot of people are going to have a very hard time in 2040. And I mean that from like a realistic economic standpoint. Things are not going to get any better, and a lot of people keep pretending not to pay attention to all this news and stuff that's going on. Anyway, yeah. So this was news. That's what I was saying. I was like, are we supposed to be standing up and clapping for Tether because they're buying more Bitcoin? I'm not really sure what it is, but cool, fantastic. The rich get richer. I don't know what's supposed to be said here. This happens quite often. It usually doesn't end up making popular news, but all these companies are buying up a huge amount of Bitcoin, and also mining it for themselves. Like they are the, okay. Yeah, that's the Tether news. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See